From the work that we did with the Standards Review Committee and kind of getting feedback from stakeholders, the biggest piece was looking at relevance. How do we really create standards that allow students to demonstrate their proficiency and have relevance to their lives and are deeply rooted in really the fundamental purpose of public education, which is to create civically engaged, civically prepared people. For example, the United States government and citizenship is maybe the only course these students are going to ever have that specifically helps them think about their own place in this republic. As seniors in high school, students are required to take U.S. government and citizenship, and one of the things they learn about is the incredible power of the three words, we the people. They also learn about fiscal policies and decisions. They learn about our relationship to the world and that the United States isn't alone. We don't operate alone in this planet. And in any civics course is where you really help students see the active role they can take and the products they can create, whether it's a letter or a PowerPoint or some presentation to a zoning board. We're asking students to think about really heady topics like sustainable development and what's going to be the best way forward for Utah and for this country. We have a real opportunity here to really help kids be visionary and future problem solvers and all the things that students are really good at because they're not nearly as jaded as the grown-ups are. We talk a lot about this being the information age, but I really also think about this as almost the misinformation age. And when you've got internet information that's actually intentionally deceptive just because it's being driven by commerce, that people know that if they can get you to click on a link that's completely bogus, that they're going to raise advertising revenue. Now the reality is we've had fake news since Hearst Brothers, but it seems like it's just sped up in terms of the kind of news cycle and the kinds of immediate ways that students are faced with this information. Mm-hmm. And they've got to have a skill set that is going to be able to help them source and make sense of the information and question it. Social studies is really the reason we have public education. Students learn to read and write, and they learn to do mathematics, and they learn to do science. And social studies is the place where they can take all those other discrete skills and really distill them into practical application. One of the real critical things we want to do with young people is give them opportunities to have as an authentic an experience as possible in their classroom. So if students are actually doing mathematics in a math class, great. And if they're actually cooking a cupcake in cooking class, great. Well, then what are they doing in a civics class? They ought to be actually engaging in the recipe of what it is that requires kind of civic engagement. We then have embedded in the standards some expectations of what that looks like. A lot of those strands and standards really focus on recommendations for economic growth, recommendations for how do we solve some of the really horrific humanitarian problems in the world. When you look at a standard and it says students will propose solutions, it doesn't matter whether that's going to be an essay or they're just going to talk about it or they're going to have a debate, but they're actually going to do something. And you are, as a classroom teacher, going to be able to know whether they know it. And more importantly, the students are going to know whether they are achieving mastery in being more civically aware and civically engaged. They have the skills for jury duty. They have the skills for reading the newspaper. They have the skills for going to a zoning meeting. They have the skills for whatever is required of them to be a participant in this community. We need to think about the kinds of ways classroom teachers can help students identify where they stand on issues. When they realize that there are actual tangible ways to support and sustain the kinds of values they hold, whatever those values are, whatever political position they take, that's irrelevant. What we want is for them to be able to identify where they stand, because then they are far more likely to feel like they've got some skin in the game. And they are far more likely then to actually register to vote and know that when they vote, it has and does make a difference. And in public education, we offer an opportunity for them to claim the life that they ought to be able to live. And part of that is being able to understand what's their part in making this civic life function, and function for them and function for all of us.